All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part or third part of the show, sorry, we will talk about possible franchise tag candidates for each team. Who will get the franchise tag? So we'll go through that. So yeah, I looked at two articles, one on CBS and one on ESPN. So we'll kind of just go through it. So some of the teams don't have a player listed. So here I'm on CBS right now. So with the Cardinals, talks about how the Cardinals don't necessarily have a player that they may consider giving the franchise tag to. They have $41.7 million in cap space. Marquise Brown is the most notable free agent, but it doesn't seem like, at least here they say it doesn't seem like he's a guy that they would consider giving the franchise tag. Also, the Falcons don't have anybody listed as well. The Ravens have Justin Matabuke. He's going to be a free agent. Guy on their defense, possibly a candidate for the franchise tag. 65 pressures, 13 sacks, and 33 quarterback hits. Had a solid season, so that it's possible they give it to him. The Bills, they don't have anybody listed again on CBS. Brian Burns is a player possibly for the Panthers. They could give him the franchise tag. He finished with 40 pressures, 8 sacks, 18 quarterback hits. So again, possible to give it to him. Also, with the Bears, one of their corners, Jalen Johnson, who's going to be a top free agent on the market in terms of the defensive backs. He's 24 years old, still got a lot of football ahead of him. So we'll see what happens there. Johnson allowed just a 28.5 passer rating in coverage, so that's definitely something to note. So Johnson, so opposing QBs targeting Johnson also completed 46.3% of the passes and had just one passing touchdown targeting him as the primary defender. Yeah, listen, I mean, if you're a team that had struggles in the secondary, I mean, that's definitely a corner you want to try to target. But again, unless the Bears franchise tag him, this player, it seems like it's going to end up happening, and that's T. Higgins with the Bengals. I mean, when he's healthy, he's a dominant receiver, and played well with Jake Browning last year. And of course, always with Burrow, but I remember he had the ridiculous catch with the Saturday triple-header against the Vikings. Also was a reason why I lost in my fantasy playoffs in my main league. I just remember seeing someone posting something that said it's tea time, and I was worried, and I should have been, because then he ended up having that long touchdown reception in the game. And again, still ended up only losing by a point, but still hurts. But yeah, listen, I mean, losing T. Higgins would be huge. And again, I think Tyler Boyd's also a free agent for the Bengals, so that's you can't lose both of them. And obviously you still have Jamar Chase, who they're gonna eventually have to pay, but keeping T. Higgins I think is very important. They don't have anybody listed for the Browns. The Cowboys have Tony Pollard, who we talked about a little bit yesterday. With Micah Parsons and his comments on what the Cowboys should do. And listen, I think Tony Pollard still has good football left in him. It's just, again, the injury kind of slowed him down, I think, this year. And I think next year that'll really tell us, who Tony Pollard is after the injury that he had against the 49ers in the playoffs. But I think also for the Cowboys, bring in somebody else to complement Pollard, because, I think you also got to factor into that. Him and Zeke worked really well in 2022, and Pollard took over the league running back role. But again, you still had Zeke. The Cowboys didn't really have that number 2 back, so we'll see. So we'll kind of jump around here. So again, some teams, they don't have someone listed. Texans have Dalton Schultz listed as a possible franchise tag player. Listen, developed a nice rapport with C.J. Stroud. it got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he ended up finishing off the year with 59 catches for 635 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they could probably still get him back even without the franchise tag, but we'll see. Michael Pittman Jr., this is a big one for the Colts. Is their top receiver, and Anthony Richardson coming back from injury next year. You want to, make sure that he's got receivers to throw to. I know Josh Downs made plays this year, um, but and obviously you got Jonathan Taylor coming out of the backfield, but Michael Pittman maybe is a guy they franchise tag so they don't risk losing him in free agency. So we'll see. This is another big one. Jaguars, their Josh Allen, their best defensive player. I mean, we'll see if they end up keeping him. So here it says they have $11.3 million in available cap space. Tagging Allen and giving themselves more time to, get a long-term deal. Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening. 17 and a half sacks, with 66 tackles and 33 quarterback hits. I mean, he's a monster, and losing him on the defensive side of the ball, that would be a huge loss. The Chiefs, they actually have L'Jarius Sneed listed instead of Chris Jones. Their top corner. Listen, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you want to keep together everybody, as many players as you can to run it back next year. And they got Sneed and they got Chris Jones that they got to try to keep. So we'll see what happens there. Chargers, they have Austin Eckler listed, but it's possible that maybe they let Eckler go and they could either draft a running back or maybe try to go after one of the other ones in free agency, whether it's Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Well, I don't know if Derrick Henry is a fit, but I mean, I know Saquon Barkley was mentioned. That I think would be a good move. I'm curious to see where Barkley ends up if he doesn't come back to the Giants, which I think I think he's leaving the Giants. The Dolphins, Christian Wilkins, they have $51.9 million or over the salary cap and have significant space to clear. But Wilkins is a key piece, so they're going to try to keep him. So we'll see. The Vikings, Kirk Cousins is a possibility, but again, he's coming off of the Achilles injury, so we'll see what happens there. The Giants, they actually have Saquon Barkley listed, but it doesn't seem like they're going to give him the franchise tag, but we'll see. The Seahawks, they have Leonard Williams listed, and the Giants, they traded him there, and maybe they want to keep him. Had 4 sacks, 32 pressures, and 11 quarterback hits in 10 games in Seattle, so we'll see. With the Bucks, they actually have Mike Evans listed, but I don't know if that's going to happen, if they're going to franchise tag him. And yeah, the Titans and the Commanders didn't have anybody listed. And let's see if ESPN has a different opinion. Because again, I looked at CBS and I looked at ESPN as well. I think ESPN's a little different. So let's see. So yeah, Bills no candidate. Christian Wilkins for the Dolphins. Patriots, they had Kyle Duggar. The Jets, Bryce Huff. Their defensive end, they had Justin Metabuke again. For the Ravens, T. Higgins for the Bengals. No candidate for the Browns. No candidate for the Steelers. Jonathan Greenard for the Texans. Yeah, one of the players on the defensive line that's going to be a free agent. If they don't franchise tag him, 12.5 sacks he had. So we'll see. The Colts had Michael Pittman. Josh Allen for the Jags, no candidate for the Titans. Again, for the Chiefs, they also, ESPN also has L'Jarius Sneed listed. The cost of tagging Sneed, likely more than $18 million, would be difficult for the Chiefs to manage. So this move is hardly a given if the sides can't agree on a long-term deal. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be tough. They got him, and then, again, you also got Chris Jones that you got to work on trying to bring back too. They actually did have Josh Jacobs listed for the Raiders, so we'll see if they end up doing that. Or, again, they let him walk, and you let Zamir White be the lead running back. They don't have anybody listed for the Chargers. I mean, even here they say none of the Chargers' top free agents Eckler, Kenneth Murray, Gerald Everett, Michael Davis played up to the level of the franchise tag. So, yeah, difference of opinion there between them and CBS. Cowboys don't have anybody listed. Giants, once again, is Saquon Barkley. No candidate for the Eagles. No candidate for the Commanders. Jalen Johnson they have listed for the Bears. Actually have no candidate for the Vikings. So, yeah, they don't even think they should give the franchise tag to Kirk Cousins, which I kind of lean towards that, too. Because, again, you're coming off a significant injury. So I kind of agree with ESPN there. And then, so for the Panthers, they got Brian Burns. And then for the Buccaneers, instead of Mike Evans, they say give the franchise tag to Antoine Winfield Jr. So, we'll see. I mean, like I said with the Bucks in the first segment, yeah, it's going to be tough because you got a decent amount of free agents, and you got key free agents on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball. So, I mean, it's going to be tough to bring back everybody. I mean, if you're far apart, I mean, they're going to franchise tag somebody. Because I feel like with Baker Mayfield, they're going to work out a deal. But it's going to be tough with the other free agents. So I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys think about this. Who you think is going to be a franchise tag? Who's definitely getting the franchise tag? I mean, obviously, again, not every team is going to be dishing out the franchise tag. I mean, a lot of these teams don't have, again, the free agent to, give the franchise tag to. I mean, you're not going to waste it. It's really just a, kind of a last resort. But, I kind of, well, I know, like, when, not to bring up the Yankees, but I know when the Yankees were negotiating with Aaron Judge, I was kind of hoping that, well, I mean, I was kind of wishing that baseball did have a franchise tag just because I just did not want to have to deal with, him being a free agent and, visiting other teams to see what offer he would get from them. But again, we didn't have to worry about it because he ended up coming back, but still. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The franchise tag, it's only in football, But we'll see. Again, it's another thing to keep an eye on. Whenever I don't know exactly when the deadline is, but once once that ends up happening, we'll see who gets the franchise tag, who doesn't, and then we go from there. So yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we will talk about Antonio Pierce's plan to stop Mahomes, or at least slow him down. I know I labeled it as stop, but we'll get into it. So we'll talk about it when we come back from our final break of the show. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.